Welcome to Bible study, Book of Genesis, King James Version. We're on chapter 45. Let's get going. Genesis 45:1. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, because every man to go out from me, and there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his. What's really happening? Joseph can no longer hold back his emotions after seeing his brothers change. He sends everyone else out of the room so he can reveal his true identity to them in private. This is the turning point of the story. The years of testing are over, and the long awaited reunion between Joseph and his brothers is about to begin. Genesis 45:2. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians in the house Pharaoh heard. Joseph weeps so loudly that people throughout the palace hear him. His tears are not tears of anger, but of overwhelming joy, relief, and love as he prepares to reconcile with the brothers who once betrayed him. Genesis 45:3. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet alive? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. Joseph finally reveals who he is and immediately asks about his father, showing that his love for Jacob has never faded. His brothers are speechless and terrified because they suddenly realize that the powerful ruler standing before them is the brother they sold into slavery years earlier. Genesis 45:4. And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, who ye sold into Egypt. Joseph invites his brothers to come closer instead of pushing them away. He openly acknowledges what they did, but his invitation shows that he is preparing to offer forgiveness rather than revenge. Genesis 45:5. Now therefore be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves, that ye sold me either, for God did send me before you to preserve life. Joseph tells his brothers not to be consumed by guilt because God used their evil actions to accomplish a greater purpose. Joseph does not excuse their sin, but he recognizes that God was working through the situation to save many lives during the famine. Genesis 45:6. For these 2 years had the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years in the which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. Joseph explains that the famine has already lasted 2 years, and that 5 more years are still to come. This shows why God placed Joseph in Egypt ahead of time, so food would be available to preserve his family and many others through the difficult years. Genesis 45:7. And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity, posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. Joseph explains that God sent him to Egypt ahead of his family to keep them alive and preserve their future generations. He sees God's hand at work through every hardship, recognizing that the Lord used his suffering to bring about the rescue of many lives. Genesis 45:8. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he had made me a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his house and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Joseph explains that although his brothers were responsible for selling him into slavery, God was ultimately directing events to accomplish his greater plan. God raised Joseph from a prisoner to a trusted ruler in Egypt so he could provide wisdom, leadership, and protection. Joseph explains that although his brothers were responsible for selling him into slavery, God was ultimately directing events to accomplish his greater plan. God raised Joseph from a prisoner to a trusted ruler in Egypt so he could provide wisdom, leadership, and protection during the famine. Joseph tells his brothers to return. Genesis 45:9. Haste ye, and go up to my father, and say unto him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not. Joseph tells his brothers to return quickly and bring Jacob to Egypt. He wants his father to know that he is alive and that God has placed him in a position to care for the entire family during the remaining years of famine. Oh, let's see. All right. I'll be right back. Oh, oh, 30 minutes. Oh, mom's gonna get mad. Why'd you hit her? Okay, Zach, here. All right, Genesis 45:10. And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt be near unto me, thou and thy children, and thy children's children, and thy flocks, and thy herds, and all that thou hast. Catching my breath. Joseph invites Jacob and the entire family to live in the land of Goshen, where they will be close to him and safely cared for. God is not only rescuing his people from famine, but also bringing the family back together after years of separation. Genesis 45:11, and there will I nourish thee, for yet there are 5 years of famine, lest thou and thy household and all that thou hast come to poverty. Poverty. Okay, not poverty. Poverty. Joseph promises to provide for his family during the remaining years of famine. The brother they thought was gone forever is now the one God used to protect and sustain them. This moment shows how God can turn a painful past into a place of provision and blessing. Genesis 45:12, and behold, your eyes see, and your eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth that speaketh unto you. Joseph tells his brothers and Benjamin that they can see and hear for themselves that he is truly Joseph. After years of separation, Joseph wants them to know his reunion is real and that the brother they thought was lost is standing before them. Genesis 45:13, and ye shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt and of all that ye have seen, and haste ye and bring down my father hither. Joseph tells his brothers to share everything they have witnessed with Jacob. He wants his father to know that God has completely changed the situation from a slave and prisoner to a powerful ruler of Egypt who can save his family. Genesis 45:14, and he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. Joseph and Benjamin finally reunite after many years apart and embrace with tears of joy. This is a powerful picture of God restoring what was broken and bringing family back together after years of pain and separation. Genesis 45:15, moreover, he kissed all his brethren and wept upon them, and after that his brethren talked with him. Joseph embraces and forgives all his brothers, showing them love instead of anger. The fear and guilt that separated them for years begin to disappear as forgiveness opens the door for restoration and healing. Okay. Wow. Okay. A little. We're gonna assume this is 45:16. Genesis 45:16. Joseph embraces and forgives all of his brothers, showing them love instead of anger. The fear and guilt that separated them for years begin to disappear as forgiveness opens the door for restoration and healing. News reaches Pharaoh's palace that Joseph's brothers have arrived, and Pharaoh is pleased. God has prepared the way for Joseph's family to be welcomed into Egypt, showing that the reunion is part of a much bigger plan. Genesis 45:17. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Say unto thy brethren, This do ye, lay your your beast, and go and get you unto the land of Canaan. Pharaoh tells Joseph's brothers to return to Canaan and bring their father and families to Egypt. Because of Joseph's position and favor with Pharaoh, the family is given permission and support to make the journey. God is opening the door for Jacob's family to be rescued from the famine. Genesis 45:18. And take your father and your households and come unto me, and I will give you the good of the land of Egypt, and ye shall eat the fat of the land. Pharaoh invites Joseph's family to come live in Egypt and promises to give them the best of the land. God is providing far beyond just survival. He is preparing a place of blessing and protection for Jacob's family during the famine. Genesis 45:19. Now that thou art commanded, this do ye, take you wagons out of the land of Egypt for your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father and come. Pharaoh provides wagons so Joseph's family can bring their children, wives, and belongings from Canaan to Egypt. This shows the importance of family and how God is making a way for Jacob's entire household to be safely reunited with Joseph. Genesis 45:20. Also regard not your stuff, for the good of all the land of Egypt is yours. Pharaoh tells Joseph's family not to worry about leaving behind their possessions in Canaan because they will have access to the best Egypt has to offer. God is moving Joseph's family from a place of famine into a place of provision and safety. This is a reminder that sometimes God asks us to leave behind what we know to receive what He has prepared. This is a reminder that sometimes God asks us to leave behind what we know to receive what He has prepared. That read by do a little gas. Genesis 45:21. And the children of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the commandment of Pharaoh, and gave them provision for the way. Joseph's brothers obey Pharaoh's command, and Joseph provides everything they need for the journey home. This is not only restoring Joseph's relationship with his brothers, but also preparing a safe path for the entire family to come together again. Genesis 45:22. To all of them he gave each man changes of raiment, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of raiment. Joseph gives his brothers new clothing as a sign of generosity and restoration. He gives Benjamin an even greater gift, showing the special bond they share as brothers from the same mother. This time, the brothers do not respond with jealousy like they did when Joseph received special treatment years earlier. Their hearts have changed. Genesis 45:23. And to his father he sent after this manner 10 asses laden with the good things of Egypt, and 10 she asses laden with corn and bread and meats for his father by the way. Joseph sends generous gifts and supplies back to Jacob to show that he is alive and that God has blessed him greatly. He does not just send the message, he sends proof of his love and provision so his father will know the truth. Genesis 45:24. So he sent his brother on the way, and they departed, and he said unto them, See that ye fall not out by the way. Joseph sends his brothers back to Canaan with a final warning: do not argue or fight along the journey. Joseph knows their past was filled with jealousy and conflict, so he encourages them to move forward in peace as a changed family. Genesis 45:25. And they went up out of Egypt and came into the land of Canaan unto Jacob their father. Joseph's brothers leave Egypt and return to Canaan to tell Jacob the incredible news. After years of believing Joseph was gone forever, Jacob is about to discover that his son is alive and that God's plan was much bigger than he could see. Genesis 45:26, and told him, saying, Joseph is yet alive, and he is a governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob heart fainted, for he believed them not. When Jacob hears that Joseph is alive, he is overwhelmed and cannot believe the news. After years of grief, the truth seems impossible, but God is about to turn Jacob's sorrow into joy. This moment reminds us that God can restore what we thought was lost forever. Genesis 45:27, and they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob, their father, revived. Jacob begins to believe that Joseph is truly alive when he hears Joseph's words and sees the wagon sent from Egypt. Evidence gives him hope, and after years of mourning, his heart begins to come alive again with joy. God was working even during the years Jacob thought he had lost everything. And Israel, and Israel said, It is enough. Joseph, my son, is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die. Jacob's sorrow turns into hope, and he learns Joseph is alive. He decides to go to Egypt and see his son one more time, showing the power of restored relationships and God's ability to bring joy after years of pain. And that concludes the Bible study. Genesis 45:28. I'm sorry, Genesis chapter 25. Until the next Bible study, have a great night.